Crowdfunding for Goldovox Pictures is supported by my patrons, including Science Steel Rail, Jack Foley, Courtney Bright, King Cocoon, Thomas Fan 3751, and Theandra. Thank you all very much for your support. And to my viewers, I hope you enjoy this video.
How did you get in here?
Through the mail slot. I thought it would be best if I waited inside. Seems how I'm wanted for murder.
No kidding. Just talking to you could get me a rap for aiding and abetting.
Movies that are a hybrid between live action and animation have been around for decades. Titles like Pete's Dragon, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, The Incredible Mr. Limpet, and Mary Poppins are just to name a few. But for any movie that defines that fusion to me the most, roots back to my childhood by the name of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's not too surprising that I mention this title since the movie has been such an impact over the years. Even when it was first released, it was universally acclaimed and was one of the biggest influences in reviving a golden age of animation, including the Disney Renaissance. To this day, it still holds up as one of my favorite movies of all time. Also, guess when this movie came out? June 22nd, 1988. It came out on the day I was born. Yeah, it's egotistic of me mentioning this, but I had to get that out there. But favoring a movie because of it being released on the day of birth is too shallow of a reason. So, what is it that makes Who Framed Roger Rabbit one of my favorite movies? What is it that makes it so well acclaimed by both the masses and the critics alike? Just to warn you as I answer this is going to be more of a gush review than it is a critique. I love the movie that much. Bob Hoskins plays Detective Eddie Valiant as he gets pulled into a murder investigation in a world where cartoon characters coexist as one. They're referred to as toons. Briefly going over this world, everything that happens is exciting as we're also given various cameos from different film mascots as they cross over each other. I still remember watching moments with Donald and Daffy Duck competing each other on stage, or when Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse were skydiving. It's nothing new saying this, but it's really fun to watch both Warner Brothers and Disney cartoon characters play off each other. It's a big rarity. An interesting piece of trivia to point out is that this was one of Mel Blanc's last roles of voicing some of the Looney Tunes characters before his passing the next year. Outside of them, we also have some earlier animated characters like Betty Boop who were considered dated by Color Toons. Shows a bit of a downside with cultural changes. And of course, by having a world where cartoon characters coexist, we have Toontown, which to an adult is a nightmare, but to a child, it looks like the funnest place in the world. Piecing all of this together, the environment is very lively. So many practical effects revolve around the actions on what the Toons do, whether it was holding a tray, opening a door, or pulling someone's clothing. Most of the time, I keep guessing what set pieces the creators have used to make the effects of the Toons' actions. For instance, how was the lid on the piano blown off from Donald when he attempted to blast Daffy with a cannon? How did the water splash when Roger was hiding in the sink from the weasels? Moments like these make me look back at the film's groundbreaking techniques of the familiar hybrid. Most other animations and live-action hybrids were mostly still shots with a green screen effect, some of which have a moving background to project the sense of action. But here, everything that happens is much more believable. The way the actors interacted and how the characters were kept in place whenever the camera moved. There was a lot of ambition for this movie, and well worth the effort. Being a classic film noir, it does its job exploring various cartoon cameos and locations in finding the culprit, and what corruptive schemes lie ahead. Part of what keeps this movie well paced the most, though, is the characters. Roger is very humor-driven and lighthearted. He's as every bit of an over-the-top cartoon character you'd expect, but is rightfully a dramatic difference from Eddie Valiant. In Eddie's case, he has a grudge on Toons because his brother was murdered by one when he used to investigate crimes with them. The movie never shows the scenario, but the tragedy that Eddie deals with is made apparent. It's what led him to his current state. He's washed up and so dwelled on it. Roger attempts to get Eddie to laugh. It's something that Roger tells him over and over, which in hindsight is Eddie's challenge from his grievances. Unfortunately, Roger's passion and laughter is another challenge for him, as it gets him in trouble. However, it's part of what he is, a toon. The purpose of a toon is purely on the level of entertainment.
Our laugh can be a very powerful thing. Why, sometimes in life, it's the only weapon we have.
It's been said many times that the film is geared towards adults than it is to kids, and it's kind of clear to see why. There's smoking, drinking, heartbreak, drama, car chases, gunfire, sexual innuendos, and of course murder. It gets very depressing, and the movie never holds back. Also, you can't forget the adult jokes that were written in.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or are you just happy to see me?
Not prostate, you idiot. Probate. Nice booby trap.
However, despite the dark themes the movie carries, so have many of the cartoon shorts in its era, especially in the 30s. Scenes smoking and drinking were a lot more common, and some were even political satires. Most people don't realize this, but cartoons back then were actually much more universal before the genre marketed to younger audiences through our current generation. And more often than not, these dark themes are balanced out by the presence of the tunes in each scenario, bringing out a lighthearted sense. They go way over the top, keeping the attention span to younger viewers who watch the film. They're both on hyperbolic levels, but it helps play off each other very smoothly. So I'm more than sure that kids can handle this. The film's antagonist is Judge Doom, played by Christopher Lloyd. I often recognize him as someone who'd play a goofy or an upbeat character, like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, or Al from Angels in the Outfield. But his role as a villain here carries such a menacing presence that you felt how threatening he was at first sight. That's only talking about the small bits that were carried throughout the majority of the movie. He's made as an obvious villain which can take away some suspense, but it's not a deal breaker. He really makes you fear him over whatever it is that he is up to. The best of which is when his true form is revealed at the end. He goes from menacing to downright terrifying.
Remember me, Eddie? When I killed your brother, I talked. Just
Yeah, sorry to have to make you change your pants after watching that. For other characters, I can't forget Jessica Rabbit. She is fun to have around as her character is beautifully drawn. She's very seductive, partially manipulative, and you never know what she's up to. At times, she appears as if she's up to something, and other times, she appears supportive. Unfortunately, her role is very minor to where she seemed a bit underused. She does serve her purpose as a mysterious role, but a bit too good. Personally, I had a difficult time identifying her role in the story. It's nitpicking, and it doesn't hurt the movie at all. She's still a great character to have for what she does. Another thing to nitpick is when Eddie is in Toontown. Before entering, he pulls out a cartoon pistol, and for the most part, it animates well within the dimensions of where Eddie points the gun. Unfortunately, when he enters an alleyway, the gun is no longer animated after a very close shot of when he pulls out the gun. The whole movie is filled with animated characters with some physical contact, and yet this scene reduces my suspension of disbelief for a second. Again, it's nitpicking. Just a bit of polishing on that scene would have been nice. Lastly, Roger himself may come off as annoying for some people with his mouth jumbling. I adore Roger, but that is something that I do have to be cautious of. He is a cartoon character after all, and taking that acknowledgement into account would suffice. That's really all I have to criticize, and that's very minimal given how terrific the movie is in its entirety. There's nothing much else for me to say. I love this movie, it's fantastic, and I think it still holds up today. To an extent, it may be hard for newcomers in our current generation to have the same impact, given how dominant CGI is in American cinema. But understanding the historical value behind the film and where it takes place, you'll still be entertained on top of the film noir plot and its contribution to cartoon classics. It was wonderful rewatching this movie again while reviewing it, and I'll be watching this movie again in the future. When you have the chance, give this movie a watch. Old or new, I recommend it to anyone in its entirety. Who Framed Roger Rabbit gets a full 5-star rating. Thank you for watching. This is Golden Fox, and take care.